I want you to try something for me. Close your eyes for a second.
Okay.
Obviously, don't close your eyes if you're driving or, operating a table saw.
Good advice.
But if you can, just visualize this word, dam. D-A-M. What's the image that immediately floods your brain?
It's usually concrete. A massive gray curved wall just blocking out the sky. Probably the Hoover Dam, right?
Exactly.
That's the archetype we all grew up seeing in movies.
It's hard hats, turbine generators, massive spillways. It is a feat of industrial muscle.
It's very loud.
Very loud.
Very loud. And it feels cold industrial. It's a conversation about conquering nature with, millions of cubic meters of cement.
It's generally a conversation about physics. How much water can we hold back?
Right.
How much pressure can this wall take? How many megawatts can we generate? It's really an engineer's playground.
Right. But today on this deep dive, we are going to challenge that mental image. We are looking at a stack of documents from the Adal Media Highlight Series.
Mm-hmm. Specifically, a report focused on sustainable development in Africa. And yes, the subject is the Durfo Dam.
Yeah.
But, and here's the hook, the thing that made me really want to talk about this today, we aren't here to talk about blueprints. We are not going to talk about flow rates or turbine torque.
No, and honestly, if we did, we'd be missing the entire point of this specific report. It's not a technical manual.
We totally would. Because this report positions this piece of infrastructure as something much more human.
That's the key distinction. The source material we're analyzing today frames the Durfo Dam not just as a reservoir for water, but as a form of social resilience.
Social resilience?
It's a fascinating pivot. It moves the conversation from civil engineering to sociology.
It really is. The report gives it a title that feels way too heavy for just a pile of rocks and concrete. It calls the dam a foundation for community transformation and market stability.
Right.
Now, just pause on that. Community transformation, market stability. That sounds like the job description for a politician or maybe a central banker.
Yeah, not a dam.
It's not a dam.
And that is exactly what makes this deep dive so interesting. We're so used to compartmentalizing our world. Engineering goes in the science box.
Yeah.
Sociology goes in the people box. Economics goes in the money box. But this report from Adal Media basically takes a giant eraser to all those lines.
So it's suggesting that if you want to understand the Durfo Dam, you can't just look at the water levels.
No. You have to look at the society it's supporting.
Okay, so our mission today is to figure out how that works. We want to understand how a single project like this serves as a model for that kind of integration. I'll be honest, I'm hooked on the community transformation part.
It sounds big.
It sounds huge. It sounds ambitious. Like, are we talking about changing how people interact with each other?
It is huge, but I have to say, the part that stopped me in my tracks, where I think the real hidden pattern lies, is the connection to market stability.
Really? Why that?
It is just incredibly rare to see a hydraulic project, a water project, explicitly pitched as an economic stabilizer in that sense. Usually they pitch it as irrigation or power.
Right, something direct.
To call it market stability is a very specific and I think very deliberate choice of words.
Okay, so we have a lot to unpack here. Let's start with the big picture context. We're looking at the Adal Media Highlight Series. What is the lens they are using here? Who's writing this? And what are they trying to tell us about development in Africa?
Well, the broader theme of the series is sustainable development across the African continent. But we need to be careful with that word, sustainable.
It's a buzzword.
It's a total buzzword. Usually when people hear that, they think green energy or recycling or, carbon footprints.
Right, solar panels and paper straws, the environmental angle.
Exactly. But in this context, in the context of developing regions in Africa, sustainable means something different. It means resilient. It means, can this system survive a shock? So the central thesis of this report is the intersection of infrastructure and social resilience. Can the community sustain itself through the hard times?
So it's not just, look, we built a shiny new thing. It's, we built a thing, and here is how it helps people survive and thrive 10, 20 years down the road, regardless of what the weather does.
Precisely. The expert analysis in the report views engineering as a sociological tool. They aren't celebrating the dam because it's the biggest or the tallest or holds a record amount of water.
It's not about vanity.
Not at all. They are evaluating it based on its ability to address immediate community needs while simultaneously aiming for long-term consistency. It's about utility.
So the Durfo Dam in this document isn't just a singular building. It's being presented as a model.
Yes, a prototype.
A prototype for how things should be done.
Correct. It's a case study. The report is suggesting that this is how development projects should function. It's arguing that you cannot separate the physical structure from its social output.
So if the dam stands for 100 years, but the community around it collapses,
Or migrates away because they can't make a living.
then the project is a failure.
That's the framework. The success of the concrete is measured by the success of the people.
That raises the stakes significantly. It's not just about keeping the water contained, it's about keeping the community together.
Yes.
So let's dive into that first pillar mentioned in the report, community transformation.
It's a strong phrase.
Yeah.
And to really get it, we have to understand what the community was like before the intervention.
It is. Foundation for community transformation. Now, I'm a bit of a skeptic when I see words like transformation in these kinds of reports. It can feel like marketing fluff.
Yes.
What does it actually mean on the ground? Are we talking about a new community center, a change in leadership styles?
No, it's much more fundamental than that.
Hmm.
The source asserts that the project aims to drive fundamental changes within the local population. And to understand what that means, you have to look at the environmental context provided in our notes. And actually, there was a funny little detail in those source notes.
Oh, are you talking
Yeah.
about the typo?
I am. Yes, the typo.
Yeah.
The original query notes regarding the environment referred to something called session revisers.
Session revisers. I saw that. I spent a good 5 minutes trying to figure out if that was some obscure bureaucratic term,
Uku.
like people who revise parliamentary sessions, or maybe a specific type of agricultural consultant.
I did the same thing. I was looking it up, trying to find a definition. But context is king. The analysis clarifies we were talking about seasonal rivers.
Right.
And that distinction between a session reviser and a seasonal river is actually the whole ballgame.
It's crucial. For anyone listening who lives in a temperate zone-like parts of Europe or North America, a river is a constant. It's a blue line on a map that is always there.
Always there.
It might get a little lower in August, a little higher in March, but it's there. You can go fishing in it year-round.
Right. But in the region where the Durfo Dam is situated, the geography is defined by arid conditions. You don't have constant flow. You have these seasonal rivers.
Which means?
That means you have violent rushing water during the rainy season, sometimes flash floods that can actually be destructive, and then for the rest of the year, nothing.
Just a dry riverbed.
Dust.
So it's feast or famine. You're either drowning or you're parched.
It's extreme volatility. And think about what that does to a human community. If your water supply is seasonal, your entire life is dictated by that volatility.
You're just reacting.
You are in a constant state of reaction. You can't plan for a harvest 2 years from now if you don't know if the river will even exist. You're just waiting for the rain and hoping it's not too much or too little.
It forces you into short-term thinking. You can't build a legacy or a long-term business when you're just worried about basic survival next month.
Exactly. So the goal of the dam here isn't just storage in the sense of a water tank. It's about capturing that fleeting moment. The report emphasizes capturing rain and running water when it happens.
Okay.
By building infrastructure to preserve those seasonal rivers, you aren't just filling a bucket. You are stabilizing the local environment. You are taking a chaotic variable water and turning it into a constant.
And that shift from chaos to constant is the transformation.
That is the transformation. The discussion points in the source imply that controlling the water supply is the bedrock for broader social change. You move the population from a reactive state. Will we survive this dry season?
To a proactive one.
To a proactive state. How do we use this resource to grow? That changes how a community plans, how it builds homes, and how it sees its own future.
It's amazing how something as elemental as water dynamics can dictate social psychology. By preserving those seasonal rivers, they are essentially buying the community the luxury of long-term thinking.
The luxury of long-term thinking. That is a perfect way to put it. So much of poverty stems from an inability to plan because of instability. The dam removes that instability variable. And that mindset shift is what allows for the second pillar to emerge. And this is the one that I think is really unique to this report.
You're talking about market stability.
Yes. This is where the Adal Media report gets really, really interesting.
Okay, let's pivot to that. Because I'll be honest, when I see a report on a dam, I expect to read about irrigation yields, maybe drinking water access,
Yeah.
maybe even hydroelectric power. But market stability, That feels like a leap. That feels like Wall Street terminology being applied to a valley in Africa.
It does feel like a leap initially. I had a bit of an aha moment myself when reviewing the source. It is incredibly unusual to see a hydraulic project explicitly linked to market stability right in the title.
Right.
Usually economists talk about market stability as a downstream effect, pun intended, years after the fact.
Right. Oh, look, the GDP went up in that region 10 years later. It must have been the water. But here, they are putting it front and center as a primary design goal. The source claims the infrastructure is linked to creating a stable economic environment.
So let's try to connect those dots for the listener, because it's not magic. How do you get from a concrete wall that catches rain to a stable market index?
Well, based on the logic we just discussed with the water, if you stabilize the environment, you stabilize the inputs.
Exactly. Think about it as a system. If you are an agricultural community or a community reliant on livestock or even just local trade, your entire economy is effectively weather dependent. It's tied to the sky.
Which means it's luck dependent.
Correct. If the seasonal rivers run dry 2 weeks early, the crops fail. The livestock suffers.
Okay.
If the livestock suffers, the herdsmen have nothing to sell. If they have nothing to sell, they have no money to buy goods from the local merchants.
And then the merchants can't afford to restock from the suppliers.
Exactly. It's a domino effect. The prices spike because of scarcity, then they crash because no one has money. The market is volatile because the environment is volatile.
So in that scenario, no one is going to invest. Why would I open a shop or start a service business if I don't know if my customers will have any money next month?
It's too risky.
Way too risky.
Exactly. Uncertainty is the enemy of markets. You cannot build a complex economy on a foundation of maybe.
Right.
Banks won't lend, businesses won't hire.
So the dam acts as an equalizer.
It acts as a buffer. By capturing the rain and the running water, you are smoothing out the spikes and the drops in resource availability. You ensure that even if the rains are late, the crops don't fail.
Okay.
Even the dry season is long, the livestock survives. The source's logic is that by stabilizing the environment, the water, you inevitably stabilize the economy that relies on it.
It makes so much sense when you break it down like that. You can't have a consistent market if you don't have consistent resources. It's creating a floor that the economy can't fall below.
And that's the critical thinking point here. The report encourages us to see this not as two separate things, a dam over here and an economy over there, but as a dependent system. Without that hydraulic foundation, the market lacks the consistency to grow.
You can't build a business plan on water that might not be there. So, in a way, the dam is an economic policy.
In this context, absolutely. It is a physical manifestation of economic policy. It's stimulus, but instead of printing money, they are printing certainty.
Printing certainty, I like that. It's infrastructure as insurance.
That's a great way to view it.
Now, before we get too carried away painting this perfect picture, I want to take a moment for some transparency. We always want to be clear with you, the listener, about what we know and what we don't know.
That's very important.
We are looking at a specific document, and documents have boundaries.
Absolutely. We are analyzing a specific report from the Adal Media Highlight Series. And while it gives us this incredible conceptual framework, there are distinct limitations to the data we have in front of us.
Right. For instance, the source highlights the Durfo Dam, but it explicitly, and I want to stress this, explicitly does not contain details on other famous dams.
Correct. If you follow development in this region, or if you're a geography buff, you might know names like the Gurset Dam, or you might be familiar with the broader development in the Gash-Barka region.
Huge topic.
Huge topics. But our source material for today is silent on them. We have no information on the post-independence development of those other dams or the hydrology of Gash-Barka.
So if you're shouting at your speakers right now saying, but what about Gurset? That's a massive project. You're ignoring the context. Ray, we hear you. We know it's out there.
Right.
But it's not in the file today. Why do you think that is? Why would a report focus so narrowly on Durfo?
Well, it's hard to say for sure without asking the authors, but often in these types of highlight series, the goal isn't to be an encyclopedia. It's to prove a concept.
Okay.
Durfo might just be the cleanest example of this resilience model they want to showcase. It might be the best classroom example of the theory they are proposing.
That makes sense. It's a case study, not a census. They are trying to teach a lesson, not list every bucket of water in the country.
Furthermore, and this goes back to our opening, we don't actually have the specific engineering techniques. The source doesn't tell us how they're capturing the rain mechanistically.
No flow rates, no construction materials.
No specifics on the design of the spillways. Nothing.
Which is probably frustrating for the engineers listening.
I'm sure there are civil engineers pulling their hair out right now.
Yeah.
Is it an arch dam, a gravity dam, earth fill? What's the tensile strength?
We don't know.
We don't know. The report glosses over the how.
And here's where I think we can reframe that limitation. That almost reinforces the theme, doesn't it?
I think it does. The fact that the report omits the technical manual stuff to focus on the foundation for transformation tells us what matters to the authors. This is a conceptual highlight. It's about the impact.
Exactly. It's not a technical manual, it's a vision statement. We are looking at the result, resilience and stability, rather than the process of pouring concrete.
And frankly, for the purpose of understanding sustainable development, the why often matters more than the how. The engineering is the means. The community stability is the end.
And Adal Media is clearly interested in the end result.
They want to show that if you get the inputs right, the output is a society that can stand on its own feet.
So let's synthesize this. Let's pull the threads together. We have the Durfo Dam as a prototype. We've got these two pillars. Engineering community changing how people live by securing water from seasonal rivers.
And market stability, creating a consistent economic environment by removing that environmental volatility.
And they are resting on that one word that keeps coming up in the source. Foundation.
Foundation.
It's such a solid word.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's used literally and metaphorically here. The dam is the literal foundation. It's the bedrock structure buried in the earth.
But it's also the metaphorical foundation.
It's the foundation upon which the community's social health and the market's economic health both rest.
It brings us back to that idea of the dual purpose approach. You can't just build for one. If you build a dam just for the sake of engineering, just to say, look at our big wall, you might miss the social needs.
And if you try to fix the economy without fixing the water supply, you're building on sand.
You're building on sand.
Precisely. You can't separate them. And that's the broader application the source points toward. The Durfo Dam serves as a model for integrating engineering solutions with socioeconomic goals.
So if you're planning development anywhere with these kinds of environmental challenges,
Like parts of the Middle East or even the American Southwest.
this report suggests you need to be thinking about both pillars at the same time.
Simultaneously.
You know, it really changes the way I look at infrastructure. It's so easy to drive past a dam or a bridge and just see a static object, a thing, a gray blob on the landscape.
Yeah.
But after diving into this, you realize it's an active participant in the daily life of the culture.
I like to think of it like computer architecture. Infrastructure is the hardware that runs the software of society.
Oh, that's a great
If
analogy.
the hardware is unstable or overheating or erratic, the software, your culture, your economy, your daily life, it crashes. The Durfo Dam is an attempt to upgrade that hardware to ensure the community and the market can run smoothly.
I love that. Hardware and software, because software can be updated instantly. You can pass a new law or change an interest rate, but hardware takes years to build.
It has to get it right.
You have to get it right the first time.
You do. You can't patch a dam with a download. Once it's poured, it's poured. So that planning phase, the intent behind it, matters immensely.
No, you definitely can't. Error 404, water not found. Not a good situation.
Not at all.
So to recap for everyone listening, we looked at the Adal media highlight on the Durfo Dam. We moved past the concrete and looked at it as a tool for social resilience. We identified the importance of taming seasonal rivers, not session revisers, to create predictability.
And we recognize that this is a model, a way of thinking about development that prioritizes the human outcome over the engineering output.
It really creates a new standard for how we should evaluate these projects. It's not just, did it hold water?
No.
It's, did it hold up the society?
That's the ultimate metric.
So, here's a thought we want to leave you with. We've spent this time talking about a dam as a tool for market stability. It makes you wonder, if a wall of concrete in a river valley is actually an economic engine, what else are we overlooking?
That's the question.
I mean, we walk past boring infrastructure every day. Roads, power lines, sewage systems, bridges. We complain about construction traffic. We hate the noise. But are we seeing them for what they really are? Which of these boring things are actually the silent drivers of our economic stability? And are we valuing them enough?
It definitely makes you look at a pothole differently.
It certainly does. A pothole isn't just a bump. It's a market instability.
In a microeconomic sense, it absolutely is. It slows down trade, it damages assets, your car, it increases friction in the economy.
There you go. Next time you hit a pothole, don't get mad. Just think about the macroeconomic implications.
I'm sure that will make everyone feel much better when they have a flat tire.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Adal Media highlight. It's been a fascinating look at the Durfo Dam and the hidden layers of resilience.
Always a pleasure to explore these connections.
Keep asking questions, keep looking at the boring stuff a little closer, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.